You're watching Sci-Fi Saturday. Discussion and analysis of all your favorite sci-fi TV shows. Only on the Anthony James YouTube channel. The Mandalorian Chapter 11, The Heiress. Directed by Bryce Dallas Howard and written by Jon Favreau. This was an episode which gave us a whole new meaning to This Is the Way. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is a lot of people were talking about how it's strange that this was so short, or even it was too short. Well, I know what they mean. I mean, I could have watched this for 3 hours, don't get me wrong. But based on the first season, they're all different lengths. The episodes are the length that they need to be to tell the story. Now, yes, this could have done with maybe a little bit more time, but generally I'm okay with the varying lengths. The first episode of the season was about 55 minutes long, which is actually a lot. That's really long for a Mandalorian episode. In fact, that's the longest Mandalorian episode. If you look at the average time for season 1, there was a lot of episodes that were in the early 30s in terms of how long they were, in terms of the minutes long. So this episode falls in and around right there. It was an action-packed episode full of fight scenes and new characters and new worlds. Absolutely brilliant. I loved this. As usual with The Mandalorian, to be honest with you. You won't hear me saying too much negative things about The Mandalorian. I just absolutely love this show. I love being in the world they're creating. It's so tactile. It's so of the earth, even though there wasn't much earth in this episode. It's just unbelievable. So where I thought I'd start off with is talking about how the actual structure of the series overall. Now, I've thought about this a lot before. I don't think I've actually mentioned it on my channel before, but the idea of it being like a video game or like a D&D, Dungeons and Dragons campaign, it very much is. Every episode is like, we have a mission that we need to get to. We need to get a little bit more information to get to that mission. And to get that information, we have to do a task. So obviously in this episode, the task we have to do is to help the Mandalorians take this supply ship and get all the supplies. Obviously, it doesn't go as they were planning. Eventually, it does, but not in the beginning. But that's the thing that they have to do to unlock the next bit of information. That is really, really similar to a video game. Each different little chapter. I love it. Really does feel like these are chapters, and it makes sense that they would continue on the numbering system into season 2. Like, this isn't, even though it says it on the bottom of this video, it isn't season 2 episode 3. It is chapter 11, and that just, it fits so well. The idea of the chapters, it is a continuous story. Each episode we're sort of moving along a little bit. Absolutely brilliant, right? I wanted to talk about the planet Trask. Nearly all ocean. Now, I can't remember in live-action Star Wars if we've seen a planet. Obviously, Kamino was almost entirely ocean as well. So it's very similar to that, but it's very unlike Kamino in a lot of ways. Kamino was very futuristic looking, very, the idea of the clones and like even the alien race, they were very slow moving. It was very elegant. Whereas this world with the ocean was not elegant, and it was actually a home of the Mon Calamari, and the first character we see as the Razor Crest is coming to dock is a character who's clearly a fisherman / dock mechanic or whatever he is. His costume is the first thing I noticed, and my wife was, my wife is a costume designer, so it was first thing she noticed too. And like, I've got this jumper on for a reason, is because he was wearing an Aaron knit jumper. Just wearing what you would expect if you were casting a film just about, a drama set on Earth with a fisherman. The Mon Calamari was wearing the exact same clothes that the fisherman in a real life, human drama would wear. It was just amazing costume design. Really, and that's what I mean, like, of the Earth costume design. Ironically, because there's no Earth, but that's what I mean. It's like really simple. He's a fisherman. What would he be wearing? Well, I know what he'd be wearing. He'd be wearing an Aaron knit jumper, overalls. It's so simple, yet so amazing. I love the idea that the dock itself was actually a harbor. So where the spaceships land is the same place that the actual sea ships dock as well. Really, really interesting. I imagine it, even though it's probably way too far in the future for this sort of thing. But I imagine like it slowly evolved that way. In like it was like the ships first, and then as spaceships started coming in, there was like, we'll just add them on here as well, and it gave a real sense of the place to me, like a real atmosphere to this planet, which is something that the Mandalorian does so well. Is that when you get to a new planet, it immerses you almost immediately into the world. Like the chowder as well, the living octopus or septipod, or I'm not quite sure how many legs it had. In the world, it immerses you. Obviously, it jumps out. It's living. It's different. It really interesting. Obviously, the Razor Crest falls into the sea, which is hilarious as well. So the Mandalorian starts off the episode by finally doing his duty and delivering the frog lady with her eggs to the husband, and a nice little reunion scene for them. And I was really interested to see them coming back into it as well as sort of like the de facto babysitter, like they were babysitting the child for the Mandalorian. And let's be honest, he needed babysat because, geez, that was scary. Whenever the fisherman or the fisherman who Mando eventually went with, who were tricking him. That was really scary when they just kicked the child into the mouth of that beast. That was terrifying. And I've mentioned before, like the anxiety I felt in the last episode in terms of the eggs. Well, dial that up to 1,000,000 whenever you're thinking about the child, because obviously the child is it's sort of the little heartbeat of the show. It's what gives Mando personality in a way. Like Mando is always got his helmet on. He's all yes. The actor, like Pedro Pascal, does a great job of portraying emotion through his voice and a real character through his voice. But I think it was a masterstroke having this child that is able to, even like through his actions, the Mandalorian's actions, it gives so much. Like he's like a father. He's like a father figure now to this child, and he acts like a parent, and that gives so much characterization to the Mandalorian that without that character wouldn't exist. Like, you need the child to bring out these empathetic natures in the Mandalorian, and it's just so well done. And like, I think this episode was a really realistic portrayal of parenthood. Actually, like I personally, as well as the series in general, but I've got 2 kids, and like the idea that at any moment they could do anything that would kill them. And there's so many times that like my older son has been doing something where he's like been running across something, he's fallen, he's like grabbed the knife, like accidentally grabbed the knife off my dinner plate, and I have to quickly grab it out of his hand. Like there's so many times when you're raising a child when they are like this far away from death. And it's only because of you stepping in and like your dad reflexes or mum reflexes that stops them severely hurting themselves. And I really got that in this episode. Like, Mando is really filling this father role, and the idea, another really realistic parenthood aspect of parenthood was whenever the child didn't want to leave the frog lady and her husband when they had the new baby, he didn't want to leave the babysitters. So Mando came back from his night out on the town, and he came back in to take the child away from the babysitters, and the child didn't want to leave. The child wanted to stay with the frog lady and the family. That's really realistic. The amount of times that we've had our son at the grandparents while we're in the cinema or whatever, and we come back and he's screaming bloody murder because he wants to stay with his grandparents. It's so realistic, and it makes me think that it's very clear that there's certain people involved in the making of this, like even from the creators down to the directors, they're parents. It just encapsulated it so well for me. Like I think they've really caught that, and it's not. I'm not going to say it's hard to do, because obviously being a parent and parenthood is very a common occurrence in the world. But it's really lovely to see this relationship between a Mandalorian, you never see his face, and a little alien child. I'm able to draw such comparisons to my own life from that. It's just so lovely. Now, obviously, in this episode we had a load of new developments and new characters. Well, I say new characters. The introduction of Bo-Katan, who is a Mandalorian character from the Clone Wars and also from Rebels, was really. Now I'm going to put my cards on the table here and say I haven't seen those 2 shows in entirety. I've actually begun watching them now since Mandalorian's come out, and I've been really excited to get into the further lore and stuff. So I've started watching them more entirety. I have seen a couple of the episodes where Bo-Katan has the dark saber. because I found out about the Darksaber in the first season of Mandalorian, and that made me go deep into reading up in Wikipedia and stuff. So the Darksaber, the history of that with Bo-Katan and Satine, I'm really interested to see if we're going to follow Bo-Katan's storyline. I'm sure she'll get her hands back on that Darksaber, or at least try. And Moff Gideon obviously has it. I would love to follow her storyline a bit. I don't know if we will. I think we'll stay with the Mandalorian, and then she'll sort of come back into the storyline, which is fine. But I really hope that we see some more development of that storyline within season 2. We might not. Maybe that's a season 3 thing. But I would love to see a bit more development of Bo-Katan moving forward to try and get that Darksaber. I would imagine we will. It's a bit like in the first season, how at the end of the season, all of his friends that he met throughout the show came together at the end for the big push to sort of end the season. I'd imagine that that's similar things going to happen this time. Although I doubt we'll see the Frog Lady coming and joining the fight. But I'd imagine we'll have those Mandalorian. I'd imagine we'd have those Mandalorian characters coming into the fray. So it's really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. And obviously we got the mention of Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's Padawan. Obviously she went on and did a load of stuff on her own after that, but that's where I've seen her. And again, she's another big reason why I want to watch all of the Clone Wars now. And I've started watching it now because it kind of annoys me that I didn't do it earlier, because I know we're going to see her soon. And I really, really wish that I was caught up to date fully before I see her. So I'm going to see her in The Mandalorian before I see her in all of the Clone Wars, which sort of annoys me. But at the same time, it's more Star Wars. I'll just take it all in. Now, I've got a thought about Ahsoka Tano. For one thing, my thoughts are when she's going to appear. So obviously, we got the name drop, which is really excites us all. But when is she going to appear? That is the main question. I'm going to make a prediction. Next episode, she's not going to be in it. Something's going to happen that sort of holds up the Mandalorian, or maybe he gets there and then they have to go one more step to find her. I don't think that we're going to see her next episode. If we do, it'll be at the very, very end. That's how I feel. It'll be a reveal, very end, credits. If that doesn't happen with the reveal and then the credits, where I think we'll see her is going to be in Chapter 13. And the reason why I say that is because Chapter 13 is written and directed by Dave Filoni. Now, if you were going to have Ahsoka Tano in a live-action show for the first time, who better to direct and write that episode than Dave Filoni? And in my opinion, he would have been hounding Jon Favreau saying, I'm having this one. This one's mine. I'm writing this. I'm directing this. No one else is handling this. I'm doing it. So I really believe that the fact that he is directing and writing that episode means that he is going to be the one to reveal the live-action Ahsoka Tano. Now, as I say, she might appear at the end of Chapter 12, but I think the first time we're going to properly have that character in the show fully is going to be in Chapter 13. Before I leave the former cartoon/animation characters that are now live-action, I want to talk a little bit more about Bo-Katan, more actually like her two followers, like her two sort of comrades. So obviously the fella, he was okay. He had a few nice lines. He was a good fighter. I wanted to focus more on the other character, and that character is played by Sasha Banks. And you might not know Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is actually a wrestler. Well, yes, I say Sasha Banks. That's her wrestling name. She actually goes by Mercedes Venado. That's her real name. So in the credits, you'll see Mercedes Venado. That's her name. Now, I was really excited to see Sasha Banks in this, Mercedes in this. And to be honest with you, I was a little bit underwhelmed. Like, I heard she was cast in it, and to be honest with you, I'm a wrestling fan. I don't keep up to date with as much as I used to, but I am a wrestling fan, and I love it whenever wrestlers go and transition. Like, obviously, we've seen John Cena, we've seen The Rock, we've seen Goldberg even, we've seen Stone Cold have a few acting roles. So it does happen. So I was really intrigued to see how Sasha or Mercedes was going to do in this role. And I was really underwhelmed. Is it because she's a terrible actor? I don't think so. I think that maybe that she's just mysterious. Maybe we'll find out more about her later. But to be honest with you, I was a bit underwhelmed with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from that character in the future, because in my opinion, like, she's really athletic. She's as from what she does in wrestling, she's she's a better actor than most in terms of wrestling. Obviously, wrestling is very over the top, very hammy. It's not really the same thing. But I was really excited, and I was a bit underwhelmed. In terms of the fight scenes of those characters, absolutely brilliant. To be honest with you, maybe some people would take this as an insult. It's definitely not. It really felt like the Power Rangers, like them all jumping in and saving. Like, I the only thing that was missing in terms of the Power Rangers was like when they were flipping, being like, "Hey, I gotcha!" Like, the overdubs that have nothing to do with what they're doing. But yeah, that's how I felt. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is a really interesting avenue this show is going down that I didn't expect it to go down. And maybe if I had thought a bit harder, I should have expected it, but I really like it. And that's the idea of the Watch, which is the cult, in Bo-Katan's words, of the Mandalorians that our Mando is a part of. And that's the idea of you don't show your face, and they're basically religious zealots, and that's how Bo-Katan said it as well. I'm really interested to see going forward how Mando handles this information. Will he buy in more to the Watch? Will he become more of a fanatic about it, or will he actually begin to let up a little bit? Will he actually start to become more like Bo-Katan? Helmet off. Sort of, it's more of a collective. It's more. It's actually, when you think of it so far, it's that I think it's probably just that they don't have a dogma in the back of their head that's guiding everything they do. They do things for the betterment of Mandalore still, but they don't take it to the extreme in terms of like their worship, I suppose. It could be viewed as worship. So I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see how Mando struggles with that going forward. Will he abandon the Watch, or will he double down, or will he just come to respect others and stay part of the Watch? I would be interested to see by the end of the Mandalorian series, whenever the whole thing's over, whether our Mando has fully moved away from the Watch and he's now having his helmet off all the time. And I'd really be interested in seeing what happens there. Really be interested in seeing that. So looking forward to that. I think the way that the Bo-Katan sort of mocked "This is the way" the first time, was really. It was really like a hammer blow to me as a fan, because the whole time, us as a fandom of this show, The Mandalorian, we've been like saying this is the way. Like we've been really buying into it. It's so cool, This is the way, and like the way of the Mandalorian, the way he never shows his face. I can really see the fandom now splitting. And some of them being on Bo-Katan's side, and some of them being on the Mandalorian side. I can really see a difference of opinion in terms of where the Mandalorian should fall. And I really think that's brave and interesting writing, and it's somewhere where I didn't expect the show to go, which is, I'm really looking forward to it, if I'm honest with you. I really am looking forward to it. And then it was also, a little extra hint was maybe put to the idea of Mando finding himself a bit more and moving away from the Watch, was at the end, whenever Bo-Katan went through this battle with Mando, and like they got through it, and the bravery that Mando showed to help them, and like she said, "This is the way," and it was a real genuine one this time. This is the way, and that really hit me, and I was like, "Cool!" Like, she shows that there are aspects of you, even though at the start I thought you were just like a dank ferric. He's one of them. That's what she said. She thought that he was just a religious zealot who was basically like brainwashed. And by the end of the episode, she was very, very genuine when she says, "This is the way. We help each other out. You showed true bravery. Thank you for helping me." And I, for one, I think I'm in the fence where I want Mando to sort of become a little bit more like Bo-Katan in terms of sort of stripping away a bit of that cult aspect of it. But at the same time, we'll see where it goes. Right, guys, thanks very much for joining me. I'll be back next week with Chapter 12, Episode 4 of Season 2. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Oh, geez, but I can't wait for Episode 13. That's when I think Ahsoka Tano's coming. Right, guys, make sure you subscribe to the video. Subscribe to the channel. New Star Trek, Star Wars, every single Saturday, as well as a load of other stuff. You can go and check out my channel for that. Thanks very much, guys. See you later. You're watching Sci-Fi Saturday. Discussion and analysis of all your favorite sci-fi TV shows. Only on the Anthony James YouTube channel.